Boom. Andrew's here at the Bacon Seal Studio in Grand Rapids, and we are fired up today because we have a special guest, Pizza of Art, which is a really way, Aydin, his name is Aydin, and it's a really funny way. It's got like a double association if you read it fast, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's got a book of pronunciations.
I can imagine. But anyway, I'm gonna let you take the show here. He's gonna make a pizza. We're gonna, ask questions. We're gonna follow his technique. And if you do not follow him on Instagram yet, you must. It's a must. We can all learn a ton from his style and his technique, and his pizzas are like off the charts. Incredible. So go for it, my man.
All right. Well, I'll start with my sauce prep, which is actually like super simple. I just get a can of crushed tomatoes. I buy the crushed personally because I think the texture is like already, it's like spot on how I'd want it anyway. You can also buy whole peeled and crush them by hand, but only crush by hand because if you blend, the seeds will pop, they'll get really bitter. But it's just a can of crushed tomatoes. I like these Bianco di Napoli tomatoes. There's a few other brands I'll use too, but this is like my usual. I'll use one 28-ounce can, and then all I do is I add some salt, chili flakes, and a little bit of sugar. I usually do brown, and then whisk it together. And that's it. That's my pizza sauce. So that's prepped. Over here I use a couple of cheeses for a couple of reasons. So there's like the biggest battle with home ovens is that your like atmospheric temperature and your surface temperature don't really like line up, right? So you're kind of like balancing like how fast you're baking different parts of the pizza. So like a common problem is that the center of the pizza, like the sauce and the cheese, like the cheese will burn before the crust has time to brown. So one thing that I did to counteract that is to use fresh mozzarella because there's more moisture, and then like sometimes a little extra sauce. But I use fresh mozzarella that I slice up into little logs, and I learned this from actually traveling to Italy. I saw them do this as like kind of like the Neapolitan way, and then I'll kind of fill in the cracks with a little bit of full moisture mozzarella. Always buy like the brick and shred it yourself, because if you buy pre-shreds, it'll have like potato starch in it, and it ruins like the consistency and the texture. So a couple of dough balls here. I tend to build on a wooden peel because it develops less moisture underneath the pizza, so it doesn't stick. And then I'll use a metal peel to take the pizza out of the oven later. So before I get started stretching, I'm just gonna dust my peel. A little bit of flour. You don't want to use too much. If you build up too much, it'll create kind of like a barrier between the hot surface and the pizza, and it might not brown as well. You kind of got to use like just enough. But I would recommend probably doing, if you're gonna like pick one, you might as well just do a little extra flour so it doesn't stick. I think that's better than having it tumble into the oven and become a calzone. Before I get started, I just want to double check my temperature first thing. 550 exactly, that's what I usually go for. 550, 560. If the oven does get a little hotter, to like 570, I might like change my bake time a little bit, but kind of spot on here. So I have this giant giant bowl that I just keep in my cabinet full of all-purpose flour, and I use this for stretching. Right now, you want to use plenty of flour because you want to create like a skin on your dough so that it doesn't stick to the peel later without adding too much flour to the actual surface. My dough is a little cold right now, so it's going to take a while to stretch. So to start off, I start in the center and I push out towards the crust with my fingertips. It pushes the air to the edge. And then I flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And then I flip it over one more time. This dough is very cold and is not proofed long enough, it seems like, so it's going to take a minute to stretch. But I can warm it up a little bit with my hands by working it a little bit longer.
Here's a question for you, Aydin. If you were a Friday night pizza, how long would you let your dough proof for?
I tend to do 60 to 90 minutes. It depends on, so like I'll shape it and then let it rest 60 to 90 minutes because it depends on how cold the dough is too. Like I just find that if you go too long, you'll overproof. It'll stretch too quickly, and then it also has like a hard time browning because the surface like loses a little bit of its structure. You can also shape and then proof overnight, like in a container in the fridge. I would do like up to 2 nights. I do like it better when you do it same day though. It's like a slight difference in texture. I'm really just kind of warming this up with my hands. And I'm being careful not to pinch my crust too much because I want to keep it airy.
Looks amazing. And everyone, he's got his oven like kind of prepped up already. He's got his cheese ready to rock and roll. His sauce, like what your sauce is super simple, and I get it. That's the same style I use, the same when I make it too. And then open it right out of the can. I find it best to be putting that sauce on at room temp. You have the same?
Oh yeah, definitely. I will take it out of the fridge though, and it'll be cold sometimes.
Mhm.
It's just kind of depends. But if you do let it sit overnight in the fridge, I do notice that the flavors like kind of develop a little bit from the spices.
Oh, interesting. And if you guys have questions too, let's you can start dropping them in the box there because once he puts this in the oven, we'll have a couple minutes to answer some of those for you. And we can definitely talk about dough.
Yeah, this is gonna take a minute to warm up. So if you have any questions, have a good time.
Well, let's talk about your dough recipe a little bit, if you can, Aydin.
Sure.
You want to just tell us your process?
Well, my dough recipe is actually very similar to, I have like a same day dough recipe on my page. It's very similar to that. The flour mixture is like maybe 60% King Arthur bread flour, 40% like a 00 pizza flour, Italian pizza flour, and I'll also put in like a little bit of I might swap out some bread flour for a little bit of like rye or spelt, just for some nuttiness and color, nutty flavor. You kind of see it, that those little like dark spots. I don't know if I'm close enough. Can you see like all the spots in it? That's from the whole wheat.
Great shot. Yes.
But like the actual recipe is only flour, water, salt, and yeast. The real like secret ingredient is time, your fermentation times, and then also your proofing times. And then it's like the main changes to it is that I've started proofing cold fermentation in the fridge for up to like 7 days. I've done as much as 14, but like the consistency changes a little bit. You'll notice like a difference. So you can kind of go with your preference. My usual is like 3 to 5 days.
Someone is asking about your comment on the screens. Can you tell us about those a bit?
In reference, like to show what exactly with the screens. They have a few uses. You can launch on the screen instead of on a peel. It's easier to get in and out of the oven. But you do like I think the bottom like just looks nicer when you launch up the peel, but I honestly think it tastes pretty much the same. You can also use them as like a cooling rack. It'll help reduce the amount of moisture built up on the bottom. So it keeps your bottom crispy.
And then Kimberly's asking, do you use only flour or do you also use semolina flour?
If I use semolina flour, it's only for like the stretching process, and I don't typically use it just because I like the way that all-purpose bakes. You do get an extra crunch with the semolina. It makes it easier to launch. What you could do even is like when you dunk your dough ball, do it in like all-purpose like this, and then you could dust your peel with semolina. But there's no semolina in my actual dough recipe.
Okay. And Andrea's asking that wood proofing box that you have. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah. So I usually actually only make like one pizza at a time, most often. And so I'll just rest it on the counter and cover it. But if I'm making multiple pizzas, I have this proofing box so I can move my doughs on and off the counter basically to clear up my space a little bit.
It's beautiful. Where did you get it?
This is from the old Pizzaiolo. It's the company name. There's a little on here somewhere. I don't know if you can read it or not.
Oh yeah, I got it.
But it's really fun. It's got like it's made of wood. It just kind of like feels more crafty when you use it too.
Yeah, it's nice.
This little scraper to get your dough balls out.
Makes sense. Awesome. Let's see.
So okay. This does take a really long time.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I got Aydin up really early this morning, guys. He didn't have time to do a real proof. What is the size of your dough balls typically?
So for my 16-inch pizzas, for a long time, I've been doing 535 grams. And recently, they've been a little bit smaller because I had a ton of dough left at this event. And I just had like 15 doughs in my fridge that I was going through, and I only did like 400 grams on those just because the oven was a little smaller. Incredible. But like typically I'll do 530 for a 16-inch pizza, and then like 280 for a 12-inch.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting there. It's like one of the things with dough is you can't like when you're stretching it, you can't like force it to go faster than it wants. So in order to save this dough ball from being overstretched or tearing, like it's still having a hard time. I'm going really slow. I'm just kind of letting it take its time. it'll warm up with my hands eventually.
It looks amazing. The dough. I love the stretch. You notice how round it is, everybody? Like, I'm guessing your secret there is to just be consistent.
Yeah, being consistent around the whole way through. Also, like I kind of look through the dough while I'm stretching to like see like how much light I can see through it. Like here it's a little thinner than over here, but because it's a little bit it's cold and it hasn't drooped long enough, so it's like having a hard time stretching in some areas. So it's not gonna be as even as usual. But if you look through, you see how it's like see-through right here? That's like, I don't know if it's too low. That's like as thin as I want to go. That's like probably the thinnest. So like the other areas I'm trying to like make an even job. I kind of like I rest the dough on my index fingers with the crust hanging over them. So I'm not actually touching the crust. I'm really just stretching like just inside the crust, and I'm pulling the crust to stretch it thinner.
And here's a question for you. When you're mixing your dough, do you fold at all? Do you fold your dough?
Yeah, so I don't need, I just mix until the ingredients are combined, and then I let it rest 6 hours to get the fermentation started at room temperature. And then at the end of the 6 hours, I'll throw it in the fridge for like 3 to 5 days. And then after it's done with its cold fermentation, that's when I do some folding and turning. You take the whole ball, you flatten it out, fold it over, and then you turn it, flatten it out, fold it over again. I did it like 3-4 times the most. You'll know you do it too many times if the skin starts to tear. But what you're doing there is you just kind of like you're strengthening the gluten and lengthening it. So that like gives the dough more structure, so it holds together, like makes it airier, it is easier, it makes it more elastic.
I love it. And Mark's asking, do you have a specific brand flour that you love?
I mean, I always use King Arthur bread flour, and then I usually get Caputo 00 pizza flour, the chef's flour. It's the red bag. The red bag's for lower temperature, and the reason I mix it is because I like the texture of the Caputo flour, but it doesn't brown as easily in low temperatures as the bread flour does. So I get more color from the bread flour. Plus, also I make like mostly New York style pizzas, which need like more structure, and I find that the bread flour has more like durability and structure to it. It's more bready. That's the name.
I love it. All right, and then Stan's asking, do you ever use a Polish in your dough recipe?
Yeah, I pretty much always use Polish. I find it's like it not only increases your flavor, but I find it's like the most consistent rise. Sometimes if I do a same day dough, it will rise or it won't nearly as much. It just kind of depends on the temperature. I guess like the atmosphere fluctuates or something. But if you do Polish, it like every time it always like poofs up really nicely. I always do like 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water, and like a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and let it rest for like 6 to 12 hours, and then mix that, and then I make my dough after that time.
So you will lightly mix your Polish together, not even knead it, just lightly mix it, let it rest for 6 hours, then just add that into your dough recipe.
Yeah, the Polish is actually more like a batter. It's like almost like a pancake batter, like a little thicker.
It's 100% hydrated. You said it was 50. It was all water, all flour, equal parts.
Yeah, equal parts water and flour, so it's 100% hydrated.
Awesome.
Okay, it's like starting to loosen up a little bit.
I love, hey, just to jump in here too, my observation here, guys, is if you're watching him, like just watch how he just treats this dough. Like he's so passionate about it, and he's not like getting it done quick just to get it done. He wants to open this up the way he makes his pizzas. And look at that dough now. It's incredible. Like how, now if he had stretched that in 3 or 4 minutes, it wouldn't be the same. It'd be too cold, correct? It just.
Yeah, I mean, like even now you can see it's like kind of wrinkly because and like misshapen. But if I had forced it to stretch, it would have just had tears and holes. Like it still doesn't look great to me. But
Mhm.
you know, luckily I don't have a line of customers to try to make
They
orders.
wouldn't be, I'm sure they wouldn't be turning around and leaving.
I'm sure they would be out here already.
So Scott is asking, so a 6 hour room ferment and then a 3 to 5 day bulk ferment in the fridge. Take it
Yes.
out, fold it, and when do you ball it up?
And then I ball it up, and then I let those balls rest for 60 to 90 minutes. I just find that 60 to 90 minutes is like the sweet spot where it's like it's loosened up, but it's not like too loose.
Too supple, okay.
I think that's something that probably is harder to do in a restaurant because they can't like time things perfectly like that. You know what I mean? So if you have to do like a bunch of dough, you probably want to shape them and then throw them in the fridge for 24 hours because they'll loosen up and rise, but just much slower. So if you let it go overnight, then you can use it like the next day.
Amazing.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make this pizza. Maybe the other dough ball is a little warmer. We might have to do a second take. We'll see.
Gonna be fine. It's great.
So I have this big spoon thing. I wouldn't regard it as like a standard industry or whatever, but I do like the wide shape of it. It's like easy to pivot around. I feel like you have a lot of control with it. But I'll do like 2 big spoons of this, and I leave like a little bit
Mhm.
in the spoon for the end.
Can we angle that? Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Great.
Almost slid off. So I'm just
Maybe,
going.
maybe just a little bit more, if you mind. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
I'm just going up to the crust because you don't want to go too far. And if it's too thick at the end, I'll like flatten it and push it back to the center a little bit. And then at the end, I'll just do like one swirl to like kind of even things out a little bit. You do want a little bit of contrast and thickness. And then like you can see I have a couple bare-ish spots. I'll just use that residual sauce that I kept in the spoon and like pour them in the center. And that's it. I think it's a little thick right here, so I'm gonna cut it and push in. Yeah, pizza's like not meant to be perfect. It's like the contrast in texture and flavor from like having too much in one spot and too little in another. And I feel like it just makes like the experience of eating the slice more dynamic, I guess.
That's
I don't
great.
know. I like having like different bites throughout the pizza personally. So if your pizza's all like weirdly misshapen, sometimes it even tastes better. It's a little more rustic, but so I use about like half a pound of fresh mozzarella. This is like really the cheese that I use. The other one is just kind of like sprinkle and fill in the gaps. But I'll lay it out kind of evenly. Sometimes I'll have them overlap a little bit in spots. But just like in general, I want like overall kind of similar spread.
That's beautiful. Look at that, guys. I love it.
And I just take a little bit of this low moisture, whole milk mozzarella, like almost like a pinch of it, and I just sprinkle it over the gaps so that the cheese all connects.
Ooh, I like it.
Because these chunks of fresh mozzarella are pretty thick, so they're gonna spread out. But this just kind of like ensures that everything's touching. Just for this style of pizza, I mean, there's so many different ways to make a cheese pizza. It's just very lightly sprinkled in between. And then this is something that my favorite pizza shop back home does, where they just sprinkle oregano in like a circle around like the midpoint
Hmm.
of the pizza, and I do this sometimes. I just like the way it tastes. I like it better than, I don't like actually putting oregano in my sauce, but like I'll do this. So you just get like a bite of it at one point. That's ready for launch. I'm gonna move my camera up so you can
Awesome.
see the launch.
Awesome. Anybody else getting hungry looking at this thing? Man, it looks amazing. I love that. I love this. Look at that. It's gorgeous.
I can't believe it stretched, honestly. So like all right, 5, 6, 7. The easiest way I find to launch is to try to get the crust in the back here to land first, and then you can just kind of like slowly shimmy it out from under it. But there's a few ways you can do this. But I let the peel rest on the steel, so all the weight's off my hand, and then I just give it a shimmy, make sure it's not sticking, and then I get that back crust to hit the right spot, and then I can pull it out from underneath pretty easily. And then I always set a timer for 6.5 minutes. I'm very precise just because I want it to be consistent for my videos, but like normally I would probably just eyeball this.
Leslie.
Can I set a timer while I'm in here?
Yeah, I can do it. I got a timer for you.
Oh, sweet. Can you do 6 minutes?
Yep, 6 minutes. You got it.
Sweet.
So do you rotate it all in that 6 minutes?
Yeah, so like this is only the first part of the bake. So you can either do it, you can do it two ways. You can either if you're gonna do like just a launch and then you just want it to be done when you take it out, I would just do 8 minutes straight. But the reason why I cut it short is because I actually throw the screen under the pizza for the last bit of the bake, because the bottom actually finishes in the first 5 to 6 minutes. And if you leave the pizza on this hot surface for longer than that, it'll dry out a little bit and it just starts to crack instead of folding. And the style of pizza I go for, I like to have it be crispy but also fold.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah. And wait till you see the pizzas, guys. And again, follow Aydin on Instagram. We'll make sure we send that, because he does so many. He gets so the crispiness of his pizzas and the sauciness and the style is just incredible. I'm so happy to see his technique, because this is a lot of new stuff to me too. It's amazing how he treats it. But so he's doing like a straight 8-minute New York style bake with that steel, and he likes to use that screen to really help crisp up and make it easier to, remove when the pizza's done. And these, we could link to some of these for you guys too. You can get them on Amazon pretty cheap.
Yeah, this is a 17-inch I got off Amazon. You can also find them at if you have like a chef supply store.
Hmm.
I got a bunch of them actually from Kitchen Supply. I got like, I don't even know how many now, but these are a little smaller.
Amazing. And you're making this on the Pro, Baking Steel Pro, correct?
Yeah, because I basically just for the size. I don't really notice much of a difference in like that. I don't really notice any difference at all actually in like the quality of the bake versus the original. It's just that the Pro has the extra 2 inches of depth, so you can make a full 16-inch round.
Right. Right.
But also I think it does it holds the heat longer, so like your reheat time is a little shorter.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it just bounces back a little bit more heat capacity in there. We have 4 minutes left still to keep an eye on the time. But someone's asking here, well, Mark's got a comment, like an observation. He just finds it really interesting to follow your style and the care that you put into each pizza. It gives us a lot to think about in our own processes, which is why it's so incredible to watch someone else who's been obviously. How many pizzas have you made so far, you think, in the last 2 years?
Well, I started making pizza in 2015 in the home oven, and then 2019. I mean, this is like not all the time though. I baked like once every month, maybe 3 weeks. And then I built my own oven in 2019. It's a wood fire oven that I actually designed it myself based on there's like a window, there's a half moon window. I traced it and then used that to create a what's it called? Like a skeleton that I could build the bricks over.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
but then in 2021 or two, I moved out to Los Angeles, and so I had to kind of like relearn how to make a pizza, but like in a home oven, but try to get it up to the same temperatures. And luckily, there's a baking steel because the surface temperature actually I think is hotter than I can get it hotter than when I baked in the wood fire oven.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
But yeah, I started actually like I think I baked the most since I moved to LA and started baking in the home oven. So I've been doing like, I don't know, 2 pizzas a week probably for the last like 2 years just for my Instagram.
Jeez.
So
Incredible.
a couple hundred at home at least.
A lot.
I
And
eat most of it.
how do you stay skinny? That's the other question, right? You gotta come up with that.
Uh, uh, high intensity weightlifting. I
That's
don't
good.
have like the genetics to put on a lot of muscle, but it's helped me maintain.
Someone is asking, Scott's asking, do you have a specific type of dough container that you ferment in?
So I actually just I mix my dough in like one of these metal mixing bowls, just like this one.
Sure.
And then they have lids, like it came with lids. I'll just throw the lid on it, throw it in the fridge for the cold proof.
Okay.
If I'm doing like a really large batch, like I did that event recently, I have this these like 12 quart pots. If you mix in there and then throw a lid on it, it's the same thing.
Oh, cool.
You might have to clear some fridge space though. I had 3 of those in my fridge a couple weeks ago.
I'll send you some dough containers too. We got a couple that we could, I don't know if I've given you any yet. I'll get you some.
Also, if you're doing like single dough containers, like if you're shaping and then you're cold proofing like overnight, you can get like little Ziploc containers like this and then throw the one on it. Same thing. It also makes it like very circular when it relaxes and shapes.
Right.
How
Awesome.
are we on time?
We're good. We got 40 seconds left.
Cool.
40 seconds. And then Robert's asking if we have 40 seconds to answer this one. How do you handle the pizza if it's sticking? I'm guessing to your peel. What do you do?
What if it's already built on the peel, you can like kind of I'll put a bunch of flour on my hand and like stick it under and then kind of like do that around the edge and then like maybe give it a little shake and it'll start to loosen up. In general though, the sticking is probably because you don't have enough flour coating the dough ball before you stretch.
Okay. And your time's up. 6 minutes is going. Yeah.
Cool. So this is the part where I do the turn. So see how it's like pretty brown already?
Yeah, that's nice.
It's not fully done though, but
Mhm.
I'll take it out with the metal peel just because it's thinner. It scoops it up a little easier.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Wow.
And then I throw that on the screen and then I give it a 180.
Awesome.
And then I do another 3 minutes.
Okay, I got you on that. That's amazing. So you got like a 9-minute bake. Do you guys see that? Not using the broiler, just a straight like New York style bake, just like a deck oven. And Alex is asking, he loves your screen technique. And you said it helps with the removal mostly, right? And then also you said it does something to the skin on the bottom of it, the crust.
Oh yeah. So the biggest use for the screen is actually as a cooling rack. And the air is able to flow better, so you maintain your crispiness for longer, as opposed to like putting it on some kind of metal
Sure.
or a counter surface or something.
So you're gonna
Um,
steam it that way. Get it.
yeah. So then even after I'm done cooling, I always cut on a wood cutting board. Actually, thanks for reminding me. I always cut on a wood cutting board because then also still creates less moisture.
It's amazing, right? So we got a couple minutes. Any more questions, you guys? So I have one. Do you ever use the broiler when you're baking?
Yes. So depending on how brown my crust is, and also how close my cheese is to being burnt, I'll throw it under the broiler on high for like 30 seconds to a minute. What's
Awesome.
our time, by the way?
We have 1:30 left.
Okay, sweet.
And then John's asking about the screen. Do you cut on the screen?
No, that would probably uh it would definitely be full of like cheese and sauce, and then it's really hard to clean that way. I like never clean my screens. You actually want them to be kind of dusted with flour, so it's like seasoned, especially if you're going to be launching with them and baking on them from the beginning. But yeah, always cut on a wood cutting board or surface, and then if you want to serve on a metal tray, even you can like cut on the wood and then like slide it onto your metal tray once it's done.
That's great. It's a great idea.
But it's all about like trying to keep moisture away from the bottom.
Smart. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. Just so it stays crispy, right? And it's like
Yeah. Also, like I use extra sauce because I'm trying to like add more hydration to the center of the pizza to slow down the cheese from burning so that my crust has more time to bake, right? So like when you use extra sauce though, someone said about something about being soggy. Um, I don't stretch my dough as thin as a lot of places will. Like I don't go paper thin. It's actually like I'll show you when I cut it, but like it ends up being about like this thick once it puffs up. But it's mostly air because I don't press out all of the air from the center.
and
But
you get
you
3
need to
seconds
have like
left. 3
okay,
seconds.
you just need to have like a substantial amount of dough, or else if it's too thin, not only do thin spots not brown, but they'll the moisture of the sauce could even bleed through it and cause it to get soggy. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the broiler on high just in case I need it. What are we up to?
Oh, you're good. Your time is good. You're gone. Wow. Incredible.
So I don't think I need the broiler. It looks pretty brown.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's gorgeous.
So like part of the reason if my crust is like thin here and then like poofy here, and then the overall shape's a little off, is just because it wasn't proofed long enough. So like after you ball, you just want to rest a little longer so it's nice and relaxed.
Gorgeous.
You can see it's got a nice brown on it already. I don't have to throw it under the broiler, but if I did, I would only do like 30 seconds. I'm gonna switch the oven back to bake so it's ready in case I have to do another one.
It looks great, man. I love it. I think it's amazing job. Incredible. Um, Alex is asking, I missed that. So cut on wooden cutting board. Yes. So Alex, even just to save your knife, you probably want to keep your cutting to the board itself. It'll keep those blades sharp longer. The metal will crush those blades.
Yeah, that's also an important thing is it cutting on metal will ruin your blade.
Mm.
So there's a bunch of reasons why you want to cut on board.
And then one other person's asking, oh yeah, someone's saying, they tend to rush a little bit when they're making pizzas. And another lesson they learned from you today is just like the patience that you have to get exactly what you want, which comes from practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, a big part of it too is like recognizing problems and knowing how to like solve them before you go too far and make it worse. A lot of times it's just kind of like take your time really helps you with just kind of pivoting on stuff. So like honestly, I wasn't sure if the dough ball would even stretch. It was so cold, but like I just let it go for a really long time. My hands warmed up a little bit.
Amazing. It's great, man. Is there any chance we can see a picture of that underside a little bit there? How's it looking?
Yeah, here,
Oh, we'll
actually.
cut it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Do whatever you got to do. Look at that,
Yeah.
guys. Look at that. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. That crunch. Look at that crispiness.
Actually, I'm gonna bring the camera closer so you can actually see the pizza. You don't need to see me. Oh, hey, you can see my coffee mug from earlier.
Kimberly's making a comment that it's one fine looking pizza, and now she is hungry. We all are.
You know it's good when you cut it and it sounds like that at the bottom is cooked well.
You can hear it. Yeah. Gorgeous. Wow. Wow. Beautiful, man. I love the sauce too. Incredible. Look at that. Well done. Marcus.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it folds nicely. Like it does crack always like in here, but like the goal is to get this part to fold a little bit. Part of the reason it's cracking too is just because it's like right out of the oven.
amazing.
But it's got like some it's like sturdy and on like the outside, but like kind of maneuverable. Like it doesn't just like break and snap. Um,
Hmm.
it's partially due to the thickness when I stretch it too. It's not a good spot. So like you can see here that it's actually not like paper thin. I have some like air pockets throughout it. Like
Mhm.
the dough is actually probably about this thick, but it's like 80% air because I don't press out the full center. Like I don't palm it when I'm stretching. I just kind of like poke with my fingers because I like the airiness.
That's great. And
But like,
do you have a certain time you wait before you slice?
yeah. So I would actually wait a little longer than I'm doing it here because I like if I wasn't making videos. I mean, when you make the videos, you want it to like be kind of sloppy looking. It just looks better. It kind of conveys the texture a little bit better. But like honestly, I would let it rest like 3 to 5 minutes on the screen before cutting it, maybe even like a couple minutes longer. You can always throw it like if you don't cut into it, you can always let it cool off for like up to 30 minutes, even an hour, and then just throw it back in the oven for a couple minutes to let it like re-warm up and it'll have like pretty much the same exact quality and flavor. I mean, that even goes for when you freeze it. Um, the best way to save your pizza is to freeze it as soon as possible, and then you can like reheat in the oven and pretty much bring it back to like 90% quality if you do it in the oven, especially on the steel. What I do is I'll take so actually I have something in my freezer right now. I'm bringing it over here actually.
Great.
Like I'll either use Ziploc or tin foil, and I wrap each slice individually. And then what I'll do is like straight from freezing. That's when I turn on the oven to I do 400, and then I throw the slice right on the steel immediately on the bottom rack there. And then once it hits temperature and it beeps, I give it like 3 minutes. Basically, just want to like poke the center of the slice and see if it's like warm enough in the center. And then it's pretty much like 85-90% quality, especially if you don't use tomato sauce. If it's a white pie, it'll reheat like pretty much back to when it was fresh. It's pretty surprising actually.
Pretty amazing. So, Aydin, tell us where can we find you? I just put your handle on your on the comments there, Pizza of Art, but tell us where we can find you and what you're gonna be up to for the next, I don't know, foreseeable future.
Well, I just started posting on TikTok and YouTube as well. My handles are the same except TikTok it's Pete's underscore of underscore art. I've been trying to like get them to let me switch it for a while. Um, I would like to open up um a slice shop or something. I just have to find the right partners for it, things like that. I have some I'm actually a filmmaker. I have some projects I'm trying to get going. I have like a lot of things I want to do, but like they're gonna take a long time. So it'll be very foreseeable future.
Amazing, man. Your stuff's great. And we can't thank you enough today for sharing like your personal style. It's amazing, truly. And all the comments, people lighten up. So we're gonna follow up with everybody on an email, all these links, and then we'll find you over on Instagram and TikTok and
For
YouTube.
Thanks everyone for coming. I'm hoping that I can help you make better pizzas.
Yeah, you've inspired a lot of people here today. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me here.
You got it, buddy. We'll speak soon. All right, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye everyone.